What's up, everybody? This is Brian here. We're going to be doing the likely final entry into the series of top 100 favorite songs of all time. Uh, this is going to be the final 14 or so entrants, and there's quite a variety of artists on here. Some of them have been mentioned before, but there's also some new ones on here. Um, for instance, Nat King Cole is a new artist that we had mentioned previously on the list, and there's several others. So stick around. There's quite a variety of music in this final entry on the series, and I'm happy that we've made it this far. And this is probably going to be like I think part 8 or part 9. God, I have a hard time keeping track of numbers. My short-term memory has gone to shit. But let's see. Number 86 on here is going to be Tupac Shakur with Troublesome 96. Not one of his biggest hits like California Love or something, but Troublesome 96 shows Tupac discussing his experiences, in prison because he went to jail several times during his career. And, you know, do you really want to record an album over the phone? It's that kind of song. It kind of sends that message. Like I've been there, and it's like Tupac reinforcing his own credibility to talk about the issues and that hardcore area of life. Anyways, Troublesome 96 is also just one of his best rap performances from a pure, like rhymes and from the depth in the vocals and what he's talking about. I think this is probably one of Tupac's best songs because he's not just bragging, he's not just talking about how awesome and how rich he is. He's talking about, hey, I've been there. This is what it's like, and it can really suck. It can be really, really rough, and that's what he's talking about. And I think that he gives an authentic portrayal of that since he had been there. Number 87 is going to be a little bit softer of a turn, which is going to be Linda Ronstadt with Silver Threads and Golden Needles. This is a song from earlier in her career, I believe in the late 60s. Um, and Silver Threads and Golden Needles is a really beautiful song. She's basically saying that that person's money and that person's luxuries and the fact that they're rich, I assume silver threads and golden needles, basically, money and luxury isn't going to buy my happiness and my love, essentially. And so I think that she's saying that even though she has a wealth or a wealthy relationship, at least, uh, that she wants out, and that's the kind of thing a person may question themselves over because a lot of people, think money buys happiness, and so they question themselves if they want out of a relationship that's financially productive, but at the same time, it can make you think, am I making the right decision? This person has a lot, but at the same time, I'm unhappy. So silver threads and gold needles can't buy her her brand of love. Number 88 on here is going to be a song by my favorite electric guitarist, my favorite guitarist, period. The guy who I think motivated me to start playing instruments as a whole. And that's Jimi Hendrix with Spanish Castle Magic. This isn't like as big of a hit as like All Along the Watchtower or some of his other ones, but I think it's one of those underrated songs from his catalog with an awesome riff. Um, anyways, yeah, kind of like Foxy Lady. This song has a really heavy, really awesome riff. It kind of almost sounds. This is one of the best uses of a fuzz pedal that I've heard. Anyways, yeah, let's get on to number 89. We're going back in time a little bit towards really the 1920s and 30s with Django Reinhardt, the king of gypsy jazz. If you're looking for some more modern stuff by him, unfortunately, you probably won't find it because he died a long time ago. But you can find more recent stuff from the 80s and 90s from his bandmate Stefan Grappelli, who lived probably I think till 1998 or 9. But yeah, the song I'm going to pick by Django on here, who was another guy who motivated me to start playing guitar, and he actually only played guitar with 2 fingers because of a accident in a car fire. He had to learn to play guitar a whole new way, and I think that fleet kind of single note style. I think that ended up being highly influential, and you can kind of hear it a little bit if you look at the guitar in early country, or if you look at stuff like Chet Atkins. That kind of influence of Django Reinhardt is present, and I think that his fleet, quick single note style, where it's almost like a one long kind of rambling guitar solo or single note guitar solo. I think that it really it really opened the door for the guitar as an instrument in terms of he's certainly the best classical guitar player of all time in my opinion. But at the same time, it really opened the door for the guitar in terms of taking the lead in music, because the guitar obviously kind of took the lead in rock. Um, and I think Django was one of the early influences for that, one of the very earliest, This is like, we're talking pre-World War II here, folks. Anyways, let's get on to a more recent artist with from the 80s. Michael Jackson with Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. This is one of the songs that he did when he was younger, when he was a young man, when he was in his early 20s probably. It's hard for me to find out what that second line he's saying is after Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. It sounds at various points like he's saying keep on, with your best stuff, or keep on, come on, don't stop. It's hard to tell what exactly he's saying because he's singing so high, I think. But yeah, this is one of the earlier songs that I think helped establish Michael Jackson's style, and it's one of the reasons that I like his early work a little bit more, in the sense that I think it's before he was distracted by any of his personal issues or in terms of media scandals or any of those things with the plastic surgeries. Before Michael Jackson became kind of tabloid material, kind of like the equivalent of like a Fat Elvis, like white Michael Jackson, Fat Elvis, kind of a parallel there. But I think Don't Stop Till You Get Enough shows probably the strongest point of his career in terms of his early work, after the Jackson 5, but when he was just coming into his own in terms of his solo career. Anyways, yeah, let's get on to number 91 on here with a very underrated band that you've probably never heard of before, the Beatles. And that's going to be with Come Together. I think that there was a number of songs. Obviously, this is, again, one of those bands that you could probably pick any song from because they have kind of a consistent style and sound, in the sense that this is one of those bands I like almost every song from. I like their general sound. And even though they experimented with several different sounds, with that more Buddy Holly and the Crickets kind of sound of their earlier music, when they still had kind of that baby-faced look about them. And they were making the girls in the audience scream. But yeah, this is one of the, I think, middle period songs when they were getting a little bit heavier, but they weren't quite, psychedelic and experimental. Like, it wasn't like Strawberry Fields, it wasn't like a song like, Lucy in the Sky, like with Diamonds. It was one of those songs from kind of the middle period Beatles, and I think that that's probably the best period. They weren't just repeating what had kind of already been done in late 50s, early rock and roll. I think that the reason they're actually named the Beatles is because of Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's a pretty interesting fact. Number 92 on here is going to be an entry by Nirvana, and it's going to be Come As You Are. This is one of my favorite riffs. I think that it has kind of a heavy, dissonant tone to it, and the lyrics are kind of ironic considering how Kurt Cobain died, in the sense that I guess in the end he did have one, if you know what I mean. Number 93 on here is going to be Santana with Smooth. This is a later thing from his collaboration days, like from the 90s to the 2000s. This is I think with Rob Thomas. Anyways, this Santana was Smooth, and I think that this is one of the catchiest songs probably in all of rock, regardless of era. I love this song. This is another one of those ones that I would definitely put on loop repeatedly. Yeah, I think that we'll probably do one or two more, and then we'll leave an even amount to do for the final part of the series, because I'm not really going to be able to do all of this in one video like I'd kind of hoped. I don't want to rush through it, Uh, Number 94 on here is going to be a song by the Sonics that I actually mentioned earlier, but it wasn't a tie, but I mentioned it earlier as a possible thing that could have been on there instead of The Nighttime is the Right Time, which is the previous uh, entry for the Sonics, if you will. This is a song called Strychnine. Don't take it literally, don't take it as advice, but yeah, this is basically the guy singing about how he likes to drink strychnine. And it's kind of on that level of like a Little Richard or Chuck Berry era song in terms of about 2.5 minutes. The lyrics are not, Townes Van Zandt or Bob Dylan, but they are fun, and I think that the charisma and the energy in the vocals and the guitar, this song is one of their best, certainly along with ones like Cinderella and that the Nighttime is the Right Time, the one I mentioned already. Um, yeah, number 95 on here is going to be Seether with Careless Whisper, a cover of a George Michael song, which is an odd pairing, but it goes really, really well. I think Seether covers this song beautifully, and they put softness, but they also make it their own in terms of making their own version of it, in terms of, it's not going to be quite as soft a ballad as the original George Michael version, but Cedar makes this a fantastic like new metal alt rock, kind of grunge song in the sense that they put emotion into it, but they also manage to put heaviness without removing the original meaning and the original kind of vibe of the song. It's an odd pairing, but it's a really creative one, and this is a beautiful song, and certainly one of Cedar's best, I think. Uh, let's get to number 96 on here, which is going to be John Prine with the country song Sam Stone about a Vietnam vet coming home. And, now he's dealing with issues with his marriage and his family. But the primary issue of the song is embodied by the line, there's a hole in daddy's arm where all the money goes. And so maybe he sustained some injury during the war. And, now he's got to basically take some sort of hardcore drug in the sense that in order to help him make that pain or that emotional pain of all of his family kind of ditching him, um, basically it kind of embodies what a person has to do to either deal with the physical pain of a wartime injury or of that emotional depression of PTSD and just pure loss, uh, like how Lieutenant Dan came home in Forrest Gump. This is probably an overused example, but Lieutenant Dan came home in Forrest Gump, and he was dealing with being in a wheelchair all of a sudden, and it was a big change for him. And you could tell he was really unhappy until he found some sort of alternate meaning in his life that carried him through and kind of carried. I think that this song uh, carries with it that kind of feeling of coming back, but feeling that things aren't the same, that things have changed. And I think that it conveys that sense of loneliness. Sam Stone went home to his wife and family from the conflict overseas, but it's almost like the world that he left was not the same world that he came back to. Number 97 on here is going to be Tom Petty with Last Dance with Mary Jane. This is one of my favorite songs for a personal reason, mostly, aside from the Mary Jane part. This is one of those songs that I love to play with my brother who plays drums, and he's fantastic. This is one of our favorite songs to play together. It was one of the ones that when we, probably one of the first ones we learned to play together. When I was still a kid and he was younger too. He's um, anyways, but yeah, this is probably one of the weirder entries. If you watch the video, it might change your impression of what the meaning of the song was actually about. You know, uh, number 98 on here is going to be Neil Young with Sugar Mountain. This is one of the best songs in terms of encapsulating that kind of cold, desolate feeling of leaving youth behind. You know, go to live on Sugar Mountain. But it's just kind of like that feeling like you have to leave, almost like that song Lather by Jefferson Airplane, in the sense that that guy has to give up all the things that he associated with his childhood and his youth. You know, he's lost his toys basically. And this is another song I think is just about kind of the sucky parts of growing up. You know, all the things that you don't get to have be as free and easygoing and light, if you will. You know, as light responsibilities as you had when you were a child. You know, this song really just kind of encapsulates the sucky parts of growing up and how people wish that they could still stay on Sugar Mountain. You know, um, yeah. Hopefully we can cover the last two. The number 99 is going to be Nat King Cole with Unforgettable. I think that he's on the level of Sinatra. He also was an excellent piano player, and I think that Nat King Cole is probably one of the smoothest and probably deepest, most memorable voices in all of that kind of soft jazz kind of thing. You know, not jazz as in like stride jazz or like on saxophone or something, but you know, vocal jazz. You know, I think he's one of the best vocalists in the entire genre, and he's also an underrated piano player. He didn't play it very often, but kind of like how Stefan Grappelli plays violin, but he can also play piano pretty well when he does. Number 100 on here is going to be Stained with Outside. You know, I mentioned a lot of things about Stained earlier. They're a fantastic alt rock slash new metal band from that period of time after bands like Nirvana and Soundgarden had kind of subsided or broken up. You know, Alice in Chains broke up by the late 90s. So Stained was, I think, one of the quintessential modern alt rock bands. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'm out. This is the series, and I'll put it on a playlist. Um, Hope I didn't rush it all there towards the end, but I think that this was just one of those videos where I kind of wanted to fit them into one piece because there was like 15 things. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I love you guys because you're you. You guys are the best, and peace out.